Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jessica Cummings, and I am the Vice President of the University of North Florida Alumni Association. You should be able to see me at the top of your screen for now. Although tonight's format is a little bit different and unique in that we're living in a virtual age, we're especially thankful for technology and the ability to connect remotely. There's always a chance that someone's screen can freeze or a glitch, and we appreciate your patience and understanding as we navigate this digital event world. To kick us off, we're going to take a moment and enjoy this fun new Osprey video. Well, that was certainly an encouraging and unique video. I don't know about you, but I'm thankful for our UNF community. This video is a super reminder to support our alma mater during this very unique time. We look forward to everyone gathering downtown or at the beaches for our annual Evening with the President reception. While we can't gather in person this year, one bonus is being able to stay virtual, and this format allows alumni from all over the country to be here. A special welcome to our regional alumni joining us this evening. Tonight I have the privilege to share some of this year's alumni highlights. Following that, we'll hear from President Szymanski, and then I'll share with him some questions you have submitted in advance. I know everyone is eager to hear from the President, so let's get started with our alumni highlights. I'll start with the updates by reminiscing on a time when we could all gather in person, closer than 6 feet apart. Thank you to all who joined us at many of our fall events. Minshew Mania was alive and well at the annual Jaguars tailgate. If you missed the mustaches and mimosas, you missed out on a great event. Even with the rain, a handful of faithful stayed around until the very end for an on-field photo. Through the UNF 4 Scholarships Golf Classic, we raised $20,000 for first-generation scholarships. What a wonderful accomplishment for so many deserving students. And President Szymanski attended his first alumni networking event in Atlanta. In December, we hosted the 28th annual holiday party at Congreve and Penn, which was our largest holiday party to date. Homecoming is always a fun time of year, and this year was no different. We especially loved seeing the more than 400 come out for Swoop the Loop. As you know, our spring looked a little different this year. With COVID-19, we were not able to hold our annual Alumni Service Day or some of our spring regional events. Our DC alumni, although, still came together in a virtual panel for Public Service Leadership Program students, and the alumni have participated in new student recruiting panels. That's a way to get it done. We've also begun virtual gatherings for our third Thursday event. In fact, did you know that last month marked our 16th anniversary for this event? It's a really great event, and if you haven't been before, you should certainly mark down third Thursday on your calendar. We're grateful for the opportunities that technology has given us. I'm sure you can all agree that we look forward to gathering in person again very soon. Now, before I turn the event over, I have the pleasure of introducing our university president, Dr. David Syzmanski. Please allow me just a few moments to share some of the ways in which President Szymanski has continued to pave the way for our treasured alma mater and to stand out as an exceptional university. During this challenging time, we are appreciative of President Szymanski's leadership in spearheading the UNF Student Emergency Relief Fund, which was created back in mid-March to provide immediate financial assistance to students dealing with the unfortunate housing situations, food insecurity, employment issues, or other personal challenges during COVID-19 crisis. President Szymanski also announced he would be taking a 15% salary reduction. 15% salary reduction. I hope you guys all heard that. For the remainder of this fiscal year, and his office is operating on a budget that is reduced by 65% during the next fiscal year. All of this is to fund new scholarships and need-based aid. He continues to put the student and university first, and it does not go unnoticed. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce UNF's president, Dr. David Szymanski.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate your leadership, and welcome to everybody. So, although we couldn't host this at a venue, I have invited now all of you to my house, and I appreciate that and the opportunity to spend some time with you. And in a few minutes, we'll also have the opportunity for you to meet my wife and spend some time with her for just a short period of time, where she can introduce you to the things that she's doing to make a difference for our students. So it's really an exciting time. I'm going to share some slides with you. I'll probably go and talk for maybe about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll do the question and answer, which is probably going to be also really informative in terms of what's going on at the institution right now. So one of the things that you saw on the slide was the fact that we are nationally ranked, and it really is a milestone in the institution. It's the first time in the history of the institution that we've been nationally and not just regionally ranked by US News and World Report. And this is really important for us because it talks about the national impact that we're having. It's national impact that our alumni are having in terms of who you are, how successful you are, and how well you promote the institution. But it's also about creating new opportunities for incoming students, you know, in terms of who they are, where they're coming from, and our opportunity to place them in really the leading companies. And so it's an important milestone. We're talking about, you know, now how can we become a top 100 public university? And so what we're always trying to do, and it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's really true, we're trying to always elevate the value of your degree. So you're the alumni in which we are building our institution on your shoulders. But at the same time, as we get better, you know, you get better, and the pride and the enthusiasm that we're able to share together just keeps growing and growing and growing. So that's an important part of who we are and what we're about. Let me share just a few things in terms of what we've done in the last, really kind of the last year or two. It's really about changing culture. It's about creating a winning attitude. It's about thinking about how we're going to be excellent as an institution. You know, it's not settling for okay, pretty good, but it's really about being phenomenal. And so as we talk about this, it's, you know, it's also about developing a winning mindset. What does it look like? What's it going to take? You know, how do we create a, you know, sort of a platform for success? And for us, it's about team. You know, it really is about team and people looking out for one another, supporting one another, working together for the greater good. And that's important. And it's an important concept that sometimes is trivialized, but it's always difficult to execute that. But we're really working on the team component of this and how can we, again, come together. And the coming together is not just the people who are on our campus. Again, it's the alumni, it's everybody, it's our community working together to make us successful. It's also about service excellence. You know, it's about how can we interact with our students, making sure that they have the best services available, from advising to counseling to financial aid to housing services to student well-being and the emotional counseling that also is necessary in terms of what we're doing today. And now we also have the challenge of how not to only have excellent service, but how to deliver it remotely. And that's a, you know, a new challenge, but it's a new opportunity for us to do things in new ways and to reach more people and reach more people immediately. Kindness is also something that we're really focusing on. It really is an integral part of our culture. How can we be kind and respectful to people? It's more important than ever during these times. As you see this week and you see what today, as we had the service for Mr. Floyd, becomes even more important to think about kindness and think about respect. And so that's the cornerstone of who we are and what we're becoming as an institution. We truly, truly are student focused. It is about the students. It's about scholarships. It's about jobs, as we'll talk about in just a little bit, but it's about their success. You know, sometimes we may forget this. And when you think about the student first, it actually does change your decision-making in really impactful, powerful ways, and opportunities and sensitivities, you know, and how can we make sure that students are successful, that we're attracting, retaining, graduating, placing these students. And so we're very student focused. And the last component, which is part of our mantra, is really to be uniquely UNF. We can't be like somebody else, and somebody else can't be like us. What makes us unique and distinct are our people. It's our alumni, it's our professors, it's our faculty, it's our staff, it's our administrators, it's the people in our community. You can't duplicate that somewhere else. And so we want to think about, what can we do? What can we do that no one else is doing, no one else has thought of? That's going to make us leaders nationally in terms of academia, as well as jobs and really helping out our communities. So it's about being uniquely UNF. We are successful in terms of developing a strategic plan. So we had a strategic plan that was probably overdue by about 3 or 4 years, to be honest with you. And we were required to submit a strategic plan to the Board of Governors as part of their directives. And so we developed a new strategic plan over the past summer and then into the early fall, and we had it approved by the Board of Governors in January of this year. And it's important for us because it does set the tone. It does map out our path for success. It's titled Greatness Starts Here, Starts Now. It is about 4 important pillars of our culture. It's about respect always. It's about integrity, it's about accountability, and it's also about being innovative, and that's important to us. And to give you another highlight is really thinking about some of the sectors where we can be excellent. Thinking about Jacksonville and what is really a strength and a pillar of the Jacksonville community, and how can we partner, how can we capture those synergies? And so we think about things like healthcare, in terms of our uniqueness here, in terms of the Mayo, MD Anderson, Baptist, Memorial, and others. Logistics and transportation, obviously, with respect to the ports. We're one of the leaders in the country, and sometimes we're number 1 in certain categories with respect to imports. And so logistics and transportation, really important. The STEM and the STEM disciplines, really important. Engineering, computing, data analytics, all really important to the success of our community and to the success of our students in our university. And the last one is around water. Obviously, given our location, water and the future of water is really important, not only to Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, but also the United States. So we have a winning mindset. We start talking about our map, and then we need the people, the talent part of this, to help drive our success. And so when we look to see what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it, we think about some of the new jobs that we are also gonna create. We had the opportunity to hire a new provost. We have a new director of student services. We have a vice president of marketing. We've never had a marketing person at the university in a senior level position. So the fact that we're looking at our institution and saying, how can we get the word out? How can we brand? How can we let people know who we are? By the way, people do not talk negatively about our institution. The worst I ever hear is that we don't know enough about you. And that's a marketing issue. People love our students, they love our institution, but they need to know more. And so having a marketing person in place and then begin thinking about our branding strategy and rolling that out is key to our success. We're also hired a vice president of analytics, understanding the numbers, understanding our students, understanding what we need to do to have them be successful. The vice president's job, or the most recent vice president's job in terms of a hire, is a brand new position we created about 3 weeks ago that was filled by Karen Bowling, who some of you may know has been a very successful entrepreneur and business person within our community, and also is an alumni. And that's the vice president of jobs. It's that simple. We are the #1 jobs university in the state university system by far. Our students come here, they get jobs, and then they stay or they go on to successful careers. And it's about us continuing that momentum and that trajectory. And it couldn't be any more important than today, where we're thinking about how can we create internship opportunities? How can we create those pathways? How can we make sure we have jobs? And how can we make sure that companies understand who we are and where that front door is? So vice president of jobs, we have a new vice president of government relations, which has been really phenomenal for us. We have an interim CFO, which is a new person. We hired a new director of enrollment services. Part of what you saw in that video was a promotion that's from our enrollment services, which is the notion of this is a really good time to stay home. In a pandemic, it's good to be close to home. Our enrollments for the summer are up 13%. We're up about 3% for the fall. Overall, for summer and fall, we'll be up about 7%, which is really a very purposeful, dedicated strategy by some excellent people in enrollment services. So we continue to succeed. We have a new dean in our engineering college. We have a new dean of library. And we also just hired a new dean for business, who will be starting in about 3 weeks. So we're excited about that. He's coming from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and he's going to be phenomenal. So what's our end goal? Our end goal is really around excellence. And so if you look at what are some of the indicators of excellence? We have these metrics. I won't go into too much detail, but here's a dashboard of 10 things that the state also looks at when they're evaluating the institutions and judging your progress. And what you'll see is that of these 10 metrics that the state emphasizes, we are positive year over year over year on 9 out of 10 of those. There's a couple that are really important to us and part of our strategic plan that we're really emphasizing. So while we can go through all these, I'll highlight the ones that are in red. One of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that the university and the college and UNF is accessible to more and more students. And that's necessarily tied to the cost of education. We want to make sure that we are affordable, accessible, and students don't leave with a lot of debt. We have decreased the average cost of education. So this is total cost of education from nearly $17,000 when you round it up, so $16,500 or so, down to $10,270 at the beginning of this past fiscal year, to the end of this spring, where we'll be at about $9,700. We've been able to reduce the average cost of education at our institution by 41%, which is really phenomenal and really, again, makes us so accessible. The other thing that's important to us is making sure that students come and they graduate. You'll see that on metric number 4, our graduation rate has gone from 34.7% to 44.6% in a really basically a 2-year period. And so this is one of the top 10 most improved graduation rates in the country among our Carnegie peer institutions, which is 350 institutions. So we're doing a phenomenal job. We're making it affordable and students are graduating. We also want them to come and stay. And so second year retention, which is first to second year, we've improved it from 78.2 to 80.7%. And that's a lot. It looks, it may not look like a lot when you're looking at these numbers, but it is a lot. In fact, it's really one of these top 10 recognized kinds of retention rates. So we're excited about that. And the 7th metric, which is percentage of students with Pell Grants. So it's low income students, it's minority students. We have increased our Pell Grant students, percentage of overall student body that are Pell Grant recipients, from 30.2 to 31.2. But what we're seeing in the 2 years is that my first year, we increased the Pell eligible freshmen by 18%. And then last year, which is my second year, we've increased that another 36%. So we're going to see more and more students who are more diverse in our institution. And by the way, of the 12 universities in the state of Florida, we're the only university that has increased the percentage of Pell Grant students that comprises their student body. No other institution has been able to increase the percentage of Pell Grant students. And so we're proud of that. We're proud of what our direction is. We have first generation students, they're more diverse than ever, but we're also making sure that it's affordable, accessible, and we're creating a compelling experience that gets them through the process to graduation and then jobs. And so the last real slide, there's one more slide to this. It's a little more detailed, but we're in this COVID-19 pandemic, which is pretty tough. But when you think about it, it's about the notion of what are you going to do and why does this occur and how are you going to come out of this? And so when we're thinking about this, we're thinking about, and really it's a little bit more than a mantra. It's that we're going to be better, we're going to be stronger. And importantly, even though there could be constraints, we're going to figure out ways to keep on moving forward and moving forward and moving forward as we continue to grow our institution and continue to grow our reputation and also continue to do a phenomenal job for our students. So this is kind of an exercise that you could do wherever it is that you work. When you think about what the situation is today, how are you going to be better and how are you going to be stronger? I put down a list here and quickly go through a few of these. It's, we're going to be better leaders. We're going to be better prepared for anything. We're going to be better financially because we're going to learn how to be economical. We're going to be better people. We're going to be better coworkers, service providers. We're going to be better teachers, researchers, administrators. We're going to be better givers than we are receivers because we've been giving to people now and realizing that there's others who have needs that are greater than ours. We're going to be better academically prepared for students because you also learn how to learn in a new modality. And we're going to be better at creating a safe environment. So while safety's always been a priority, it's going to be a different kind of priority now. And we're going to be really good at making sure that we're partnering and to create a safe environment for everybody who's on our campus. We're going to be a stronger university. We'll be more courageous. We're going to be more resilient. Our faculty and students were tremendously courageous to switch on a dime to go to remote. It wasn't easy for faculty who had never taught online, and it wasn't easy for students to go home and now have to learn from a distance. As I tell them, they're a courageous group of individuals now. It's a trait that they'll take with them everywhere. We're going to be more selfless, we'll be more flexible, we'll be more empathetic, we'll be more compassionate. We're more appreciative. We'll be appreciative of the day when we can actually interact with people. And that's something we probably took for granted along the way. We'll be more relevant, we'll be more skilled, focused, team-oriented, widely recognized, we'll be more efficient, effective, and importantly, we'll be more respected, respectful, and we'll be kinder people because we realize that the compassion is necessary for us to make it and to succeed. And to really, that attitude part of it is really going to be important to our success. So with that, I'll stop talking. We can talk about sort of the blueprint for the fall or any other questions that you might have that I'd be happy to answer. So I'll turn it back to Jessica and I'll stop sharing the slide in like 2 seconds. There we go.
Thank you, President Szymanski. We are certainly honored to have such a perceptive and impactful president and leader here for us at the University of North Florida. At this time, I'd like to move to our question answer portion. I'm excited to say that we've had more than 100 questions that were submitted through the registration process, and we were able to condense those as we picked out some common themes. I know we are all eager to hear from you, President Szymanski, so I'll get us started with the first question. And the first one is a little bit of a doozy, but we all read your statement regarding racial injustice and applaud UNF's clear stance on that, so thank you. What specific efforts are being undertaken to address the related concerns of students and faculty?
Right. So let me figure out, there's a couple ways of approaching this. One is that we're right now meeting with relevant people on our campus to see what we can do and how we can do things better. I think we're all in a situation where we know we want to do things and nobody's really sure exactly what we should be doing. So we're working hard. We had a meeting yesterday with the leadership team. We had a meeting this afternoon, again with the leadership team, but an expanded leadership team. And it's about what is the next step. So we also, for many of you know that we also have One Jacks as one of our assets. That's a group that's great about dialogue and convening. So we've had Nancy Bonner on these calls. And I had a Zoom call with students today, and it was predominantly African-American students, and we had this discussion. What could we do? What are you feeling? What are some of the next steps? So a couple of next steps. One is that we're going to continue to meet. We're going to meet with another group of students tomorrow. I want to hear their viewpoints. I want to see what they're doing. What we're planning, which you'll see, I think, beginning announced tomorrow, is we're going to do a candlelight vigil remotely that we're scheduling. I think we're going to schedule it for Wednesday. So it's either going to be Monday of next week, but I think it's going to be Wednesday because we want to make sure that we can get the word out to as many people as possible. We want to bring all our students, our faculty, our alumni together. We want to have the opportunity to have speakers who express their pain and the struggles that they're going through. We want to make sure that the institution is well represented. But I think it's as we talk to people, it's about the dialogue. But I don't really want it to stop at dialogue because it's dialogue followed by action. What else do we need to do? So we're developing really kind of an agenda at this point in time, a strategic approach to this. And what else do we need to do to make sure that we have an environment where people are safe, where they feel respected, where they are included, and also where we're leading in terms of this, because we are not tolerant at all of any kind of discrimination. And so again, we're going to bring people together. I think the vigil is going to be a nice place for us to start. We're going to do it at Zoom. We talked about doing it in person, but I think the Zoom will allow it to be the family and make sure that there's no disruption with this. And we want to start there, but it's only the start. It's not the finish, and it's not something where we're just going to listen to words. Words are important. The dialogue's important, and then we want to make sure that we formulate and take action. So I wish I had all the answers, but I don't. But we're going to collectively figure out what are the best things for UNF.
That's fantastic. And I certainly think that your leadership is allowing us to prioritize diversity and inclusion, especially at this unprecedented time. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Next one, what steps will the university take to safely reopen campus?
Yeah, there's probably about 200 or 300 steps in that process. I'll tell you what we're doing today, and it is a lot of these things are actually by the moment. The Board of Governors. So we have a Board of Trustees, a Chancellor, and then the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors oversees all the state institutions. They've created what they call a blueprint, which is basically a framework of issues that you need to address. We're putting together the document that we'll be presenting to our Board of Trustees on Monday. That lays out the blueprint. And so the blueprint, and for us, the operations, there's certainly the academic component of this, right? How are we going to hold classes? What's this going to look like? How are we going to make sure that it's safe? What kind of options are we giving our students? What kinds of options are we also giving to faculty? But it's also about the health parts of this. How are we going to create a healthy campus? How are we going to create a healthy community? So it's pretty extensive. It's about a 20-page document right now that will condense in terms of executive summaries and really kind of do it also an FAQ so that people can look at the major issues. But we're going to have remote components to what we do. There's going to be students who are going to be uncomfortable about coming on campus, a campus. There's students who want to come on campus. And then there's students who will also have compromised health conditions. And so we want to make sure, and we will make sure, that there's a remote component, so that they're not missing any students not missing anything, and that there's an in-person component. We also will have faculty who will feel uncomfortable either coming on campus and doing the classes, or might be in an at-risk category. We're also going to give them the opportunity to teach remotely. So there's a lot of issues we're going to talk about: how many students per class, distancing, making face masks mandatory in indoor spaces and places where you can't distance. We're also reconfiguring the dorms to make sure that while we have about 3,500 students who could stay in the dorms at a max out of the 17,300 students we have, we'll probably bring that down by another 7 to 10% to make sure students have private quarters or are not sharing too many, there's not too many students per bathroom and things like that. So we're really going through, we're partnering with Mayo, with Baptist, with UF Health, making sure we have the experts in place too. And then probably another fourth component of it, we can talk about lots of dimensions, is really we'll have a behavioral team in place too, because it's about a shared responsibility. We're working really hard as an academic institution to think about administratively what we need to do, but we're going to need other people to partner with us. We're going to need our students to partner with us. We're going to need our faculty to partner with us. We're going to need our staff to partner with us to make sure that it's a safe environment. So there's a lot of moving pieces. It literally changes as you watch TV and listen to the media. It almost changes by the day. So on Monday, when we present to the Board of Trustees, it'll be where we're at that Monday, but it's going to be a living, breathing document that we're going to work on it until until we get to this semester and then throughout the semester.
Perfect. You mentioned something, remote learning or virtual classes. How is the university going to consider using technology for the future? So not just during our COVID crisis, but in the future in more of a unique way.
Yeah. So I think one of the better, stronger things that came out of this COVID is that everybody had to learn technology. There's a lot of faculty who are really savvy and know technology. They've already taught online. But there's another group of faculty, through no fault of their own, but they haven't had the opportunity to teach online, right? And now they know how to do that. And there's now students who know how to better learn online. We have high school students who are masters at this. I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who's in first grade. She's great at Zooming and going to school in a Zoom. So I think we have an opportunity to really kind of complement how we do things, to introduce technology into the classrooms, to create that flexibility where the students have the opportunity to learn through technology. If they can't attend class, they're not well, and offer it as an option. I also think it gives us a nice opportunity to start thinking about what might be some really great online majors that we could also offer, to thinking about more on the graduate side, for example, graduate degrees where, we may not have thought about doing it, but there's a demand in the marketplace for it. So I think it's going to offer us a lot of flexibility. It also caused a lot of people to be more innovative, right? So where change and innovation is hard, now people have done this. So I think it's going to offer us a totally new mindset in terms of the possibilities, and also thinking through some classes that it may be difficult to do online because there's an experiential component. What could it be? You know, we have hurricane season coming up. My contract still says no hurricanes for the first 3 years, so I'm good. One more year, got to think with this, right? But, you know, how do we continue operations, right? Now we know how to do this. If we have to shut down or people have to go home because of hurricanes, there'll still be that continuity of education.
Perfect. So what's going to be the biggest impact on how UNF fulfills its educational mission as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic?
So, you know, I think if you think about the impact, which might be the biggest challenge, I think the challenge is around community. You know, we did some things, we learned how to do some things that created a sense of community. You know, we had a trivia game that had 1,000 people show up for. You know, we're not gonna get that if we're doing it on campus, but we did it online. But how do we create that sense of community? And that's why the students want to come back, and that's really why the faculty and everybody wants to get back to campus. So you can have that feel, that sense of belonging, right? That those memories. And so how are we going to do this in this abbreviated social distancing, CDC kind of world is probably the major challenge. So we want people to have a real experience, a personal experience, and at the same time, we want to make sure it's safe. So I think that's the biggest challenge. You know, it's around sporting events, it's around even cafeterias, it's around student organizations and gatherings, and it's even around classrooms and group projects and students getting together as groups and working in the library. So that's probably, you know, how are we going to do that? How can we best approximate what is now a memory for us, but make it seem like it isn't a distant memory, that it's a new reality. So, you know, we have people who, and all of us are working hard on that every day, you know, and how can we duplicate that and create that, you know, that college truly atmosphere that, you know, all your life you'll never forget, right? As opposed to remembering I had to switch to remote, right? So we're gonna work on all that, as well as, you know, as I talk to students, probably the biggest disappointment was we couldn't do graduation in person. Mm-hmm. But I owe them one, and I promised them, whenever it's safe, we're gonna do something that's in person.
Yeah, I do think that certainly there will be a generation of remember where you were when COVID hit. Yeah. And what did you miss out on? One more question for you on the coronavirus, and then we'll move on to some more fun stuff. In addition to philanthropy, what can alumni do to help UNF going forward as we enter this new normal in our COVID-19 world?
You know, I think one of the big things people can do is make sure you reach out and hire our students, create opportunities, think creatively about internships and what that could look like. Mm-hmm. So it may not be the classical internship of 10 weeks in the summer. It could be a very short internship. It could be a remote internship. It could be a project. You know, reach out to the students, and, you know, we don't want to stop them from developing and getting real jobs. So, you know, encourage people to hire our students, you know, talk them up. I think it'll be fine. I think we're going to work out in the end. But for those of us who remember 9/11, it wasn't a good semester for any student who was in college at 9/11 because people stopped hiring, people stopped coming out. And I want to make sure that we continue to grow, you know, our experiential learning for our students. So I think that, you know, besides philanthropy, which is really important because there's a huge need on the financial side. So far, we've had requests for $750,000 from students, you know, asking for help and assistance. And, you know, we've been able to fulfill quite a bit of that at this point in time. But there is a financial need, but there's also that need, and there's also that, you know, reducing that anxiety of we're here for you, and we'll reach out, we'll be your mentor, we'll be your helper, you know, we'll help you get a job, we'll help you grow as an individual.
Great. It certainly gives us some big shoes to fill, but I think myself and our other alumni will be happy to do it.
Great.
So since students may now choose to stay a little closer to home, what should we try to do to recruit more students from our local high schools?
Yeah, so, you know, we've been changing our recruiting strategy in terms of looking at more high schools and staying close to home. I think what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's a university of first choice. I think it's a nice opportunity for our students in our community to recognize really the great educational experience that we have here at UNF. You know, it's relatively small classes. We are taught by faculty who are not graduate assistants. We don't have large mass sections. but we have faculty who really care. You have an opportunity to get into research as an undergraduate, which is really unique and really distinct. And by the way, our student body is really talented. Our freshman, last fall's freshman high school GPA was a 4.32. It puts us at the top of the system. These are good students. And that opportunity for faculty to work with faculty and faculty to reach out to you, it's a great experience. And by the way, we also have the best looking campus in the country. So, even though we're doing a modified on campus, it's a great experience here. It's a great place to be. Students are passionate, the alumni is passionate, and the community is passionate. So I think it's an opportunity for people to sometimes not look over the horizon and say, oh, it must be better somewhere else. It's really good right here in Jacksonville.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Do you expect any budget cuts from the state due to loss of revenue or anything in the very near future? And if so, how do we combat that?
Yeah, so the answer is I really, really, really don't know. And so we're looking for the governor to sign the budget in the next couple of weeks. There has been no discussion of budget cuts in terms of higher education. So it really is nobody's talking this way. The chancellor doesn't know, the board of governors, board of trustees, and so on. But you can't wait for these kinds of things. So what we're doing and what I call developing a fortress balance sheet. We want to make sure that we're a solvent institution, that we're in the best position so that no matter what happens, we can weather the storm well. And so, it's not unlike any business where it's really about cash at this point in time. Making sure that we have the reserves in place, that we have the capital in place, so that if there should be a budget cut, or if things change dramatically because there's another outbreak of the pandemic, we'll have the resources in place to weather the storm so that it's not about, immediate furloughing and layoffs and cutting into people's retirements and things like that. And so we're really, truly looking at how we're going to build up cash reserves just in case. And this is truly one of those just in case scenarios. But we're being proactive and we're getting ahead of it so that we're not cutting things, but we're saving money so that we can continue to function and particularly continue to move forward.
You mentioned smaller class sizes, classes that are taught by professors, not grad assistants. What else is UNF doing to differentiate us against other public schools within the state?
I think it is the culture part of it, though. It is the faculty that makes us distinct. I mean, the faculty really care about the students. And again, you're learning from, a trained terminal degree faculty member often. We still have adjuncts who are wonderful professionals from the community, but you're doing that as a freshman and a sophomore. It's not waiting till your junior, your senior year where you get into majors. I think the research part of it is also really important. That you do have that opportunity, which is unique for a public university, to have research opportunities and experiences as an undergrad. And I think the other part that's really unique, particularly in the state of Florida, and it's never said in terms of we're better than somebody else, but what we have here in Jacksonville is and the chancellor, it was interesting, I was talking with the chancellor on Monday, and he said he used to live in Jacksonville, by the way. So he actually lived in my neighborhood at one point in time. But, he uses a different word, but I use it as, we're kind of a real city. We're trying to develop a real economy, right? It's not just a service economy based on tourism and the hotel industry or people who are retiring. It is, as you all know, and anybody who's been, here in Jacksonville recently, it continues to attract really prominent companies. And our Chamber of Commerce is continually working along with the mayor's office and all of us to attract companies from around the globe to come here and locate in Jacksonville. So the thing that distinguishes us is back to a point I raised earlier. We're the #1 jobs university in the system. We place students better than anybody else. And so it's a great place to come, and also back to good place to stay, and get a great education because the pipeline is here. And we also have that opportunity to grow with the city and be a catalyst for the city and the city be a catalyst for us. And that's really distinct and unique within the state of Florida. And so, we say that as a point of pride because it does distinguish us and what we can do as an institution. If you want your child to get a job, send them to UNF. It's not a bad slogan for anybody who's a parent. We love our children, but it's always great to have a job and, to be gainfully employed so that they can come and support you in another 20, 30, 40 years, right? So it's,
Absolutely.
you got to get some return on your investment, right? So we will, but it's a great place. It's a great place to live and work, and you can get jobs. It's really important.
That is a great slogan. Get your kids off your payroll.
That's it. We can do that.
What's the long-term plan for UNF Athletics Department and UNF's commitment to winning?
Yeah, so I think we're committed to winning in everything. If you really drill down and you really spend time and really pay attention, we have really some phenomenal sports programs. Our men's basketball team played really, really well this year. There was a chance to go one of the postseason tournaments if things sort of didn't come up with the pandemic. But they were exciting. They were fun to watch. They led the nation in three-point shots and three-point shots made. So there was never a lack of excitement, right, in terms of who they were and what they were doing. Our tennis teams are phenomenal. They usually win the conference. You look at our soccer programs are really strong. Our baseball is. Our golf team, men's and women's. Men's team was ranked, I think, 13th last year in the country. So we have really strong we don't have football. So, by the way, one of the things I'm really glad about is we don't have football. And so you can't ask me a question about football and what are we going to do and what's the season going to look like and when we're bringing people back, because I don't have to worry about that. So there's great forethought in having no football right now. But we do have really strong athletic teams, and we have people who support them. And so our student athletes, by the way, are phenomenal students. I think the GPA this spring semester for our athletes across the board was something on the average of a 3.42. Mm-hmm. When you realize that a student athlete spends about 40 hours a week on a field or on a court and another 40 hours studying, an 80-hour work week, and realize that they're tired by the time they get to study, and having them come away with an overall across 400 students, athletes, of a 3.42, it's truly phenomenal. And they graduate at a higher rate than regular students. Their GPA on average is higher than the normal student. So they're people of character and perseverance, and they have a skill set that's going to allow them to be successful in everything they do. So importantly, as we talk about athletics, it's also important to emphasize that our coaches recruit for character. Mm-hmm. And that's really important because our student athletes represent our institution really well. And I'm proud of that fact.
Absolutely. And I think you just hit the nail on the head, is that character is so very important with collegiate athletics, because sometimes the news doesn't report the good things that student athletes are doing. Typically, it's only the poor choices they've made.
Right.
So you mentioned a little bit in your slides and in your notes that you're anticipating seeing a 7% increase in enrollment in the fall. Mm-hmm. Clearly, there hasn't been a decrease in the applications, but what do you think has led to that potential increase?
So I think there's two things. One is that there's an innate inertia. So we had the largest class last year, and we had the largest class before that. And we had the most talented class, and we had the most diverse class that we've ever had last year. And then, that's over another same kind of accolades from the year before. I think the word's getting out. I think we're doing a better job of beginning to market the institution. We're doing a better job of marketing to the high schools and the high school counselors and the principals and the superintendents. It's pretty phenomenal. But by the way, most of the counties around here, the superintendents are our grads. So it's pretty cool when you pick up the phone and you go, oh yeah, you're an Osprey kind of thing. Or their kids are going to our institution. So, you become the institution of first choice. And people are realizing that there's a special experience that they get on our campus that might be hard to define and identify, but it's special. And it's a special caring attitude. And so we keep growing because, we really are creating great academics, we're placing students, we're creating a more diverse student body, and we have new people in enrollment services that are doing truly a phenomenal job of getting the word out there, telling people who we are, and making sure that our students are also recruiting students. So new programs, new initiatives, new majors, hiring new faculty. I think it's just an exciting place to be. When we talked about the metrics, we have the largest metrics increase, so these total points, of any university in the state system. So it was kind of cool because last week at a Board of Governors meeting, which was virtual, we had like, for about 3 or 4 minutes, our own slide about UNF, led by the chair of the Finance Committee for the Board of Governors. And so you go, you know, there's not an ego part of this, but you go, yeah, this is good. You know, there's a little bit of, you know, good, this is pretty cool. And everybody's looking at and saying UNF is doing a great job. And so that word is starting to get out. We're changing the reputation nationally throughout the state, and it's becoming a destination institution. So I'm excited. And, you know, the other part of it is you can't underestimate, I can't understate the value of the alumni in causing that next generation to come to our institution. We're still relatively young, right? Our oldest alum is still a young person. But seeing and having those role models and having those people talk about our institution and then seeing how well you've done is really part of that, you know, part of that story and a major part of that story in terms of why do people come to UNF. So I appreciate it. I want to say thank you to everybody.
Absolutely. One last question before we all get to see the First Lady, and I know everybody's excited to see her.
Yeah, and then you don't want to see me anymore, so
maybe.
I'll get that. So that's fine.
So what's your ultimate goal for UNF?
You know, our ultimate goal is I guess the easy way of stating it is to just say we're going to become a phenomenal institution, you know, and I really want to be the best. And I don't really want to talk about it as being better than somebody else. It's constantly looking for that ideal point, that perfection. How can we be the best university, period? You know, how can we have and continue to have phenomenal students, phenomenal relationships, hire the best faculty, make a difference not only for Northeast Florida, but really for, you know, for the state as well as the country. And so it's really saying, you know, we're going to be excellent, we're going to be preeminent, we're going to be a phenomenal institution. And we've made a lot of progress within a short period of time because of the phenomenal people that we really have. So you can't use the word phenomenal often enough in a sentence, you know, but as a descriptor and an adjective, but it really is about really setting very, very high standards. And, you know, and really, you know, it's kind of an old saying and maybe it's relatively cliche, but nobody rises to low expectations. But it's about having high expectations and then creating the pathways and creating the strategy and the operational plan to get there. You may not get there in one day, but if you know what your end goal is and you know what your aspiration is, and it's a big, significant aspiration, you'll work hard to get there. And it forces you to get up every day and be better, because we never actually stop growing, do we, as people? No. You know, the fun part about going to work and having a job or just getting up every day is you learn something new and you develop a new skill and a new skill set. It's the same thing with the institution. We're never going to stop growing. We never want to stop growing. There's not a complacency. There's only soft finish lines that you go, okay, good. And then what's the next finish line, right? So you celebrate for a moment and you go, this is good. And then you move on to say, okay, now how are we going to become better, right? In a very positive, you know, kind of a motivating kind of way. So I want us to be truly, truly phenomenal as an institution. I'm not here to help us create something that's mediocre, because our people deserve better. You know, our alumni deserve better. Our students, our faculty, our staff deserve the best. And that's what we're going to become. We're going to become the best.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
I think we'll take a pause right now. And if you would please have Maria join us. We've got a few questions for the both of you as a couple. That way we don't single you out.
Sounds great. So I'm just going to switch this around in 1 second. I'm going to stop and I'll be right back.
Okay.
So we'll see how we look.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. Hi, how's everyone?
So this is my wife, Maria. So if you haven't met her, so give you a little bit of background on her. She can give you your own, but she's originally from Greece. So she came here when she was little and she grew up in North Carolina. We met when we were undergraduates and we've been married forever. So we got married 2 weeks after graduation and it's the best decision that at least I made. So good. It's good. And we love being here. So
yeah, it is such an honor to be here among all of you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us.
Absolutely.
I know that we are all curious. What has quarantine looked like in the Szymanski household?
Oh, boy.
It looks like this every day.
Yeah.
We dress up for one another and we just kind of hang out, right? Kind of thing. And that's pretty much all we did, to be honest with you. It's just the two of us, and we've been staying at home. But, you know, as I tell people when we're not in this situation, they ask me, well, what do you do, you know, in your spare time? And my spare time is I hang out with my wife. So
And I hang out with my husband. You know, we go outside a little bit, but we try to stay safe as much as we can.
so that's what we do. We
That's
don't
what we do.
we don't do much else. So I'm sorry, it's not
We
that
Zoom,
exciting.
We Zoom, we make calls, we do all of that through the day.
We do.
Yeah, it's a
We do.
busy day. It really is. Every day's a busy day, but it's wonderful. Mhm.
Well, I've heard a little bit, Maria, in your busy day. You may be hosting some virtual reading for young children called Magical Story Time. If you
That's right.
could you give us a little insight into what the inspiration may have been for that?
Okay, well, you know, I've always worked with children. I'm a former teacher, so I've always had the love of reading, and I've always seen kind of the magic that happens when you read stories to children, especially if they're interested. And if they're not, you make them interested. But I guess more than anything else, you want to get the wow factor, you know, to get these children invited to come to listen to your stories and be part of them. But at the same time, you really want them to be exposed to different types of books. They can be an adventure. They could be a book about facts. It could be about fantasy. So you want, in case they don't have enough books maybe in their homes at this special time. And so that's one of my goals. And the other one is when I talk about the wow factor, I'm thinking about, you know, how do you put them into adventures, you know, where they get to use their imagination and be almost like the character of the story, or you put them in that certain setting that you're talking about. And that, and along with that, that imagination where maybe they can put on, you know, like puppet shows at home, or they can act out different stories that the way they like them, or they can copy the characters that they read about. And another one is you want them to love books. Mm-hmm. You want reading skills to go up. And so if they get familiar with some of these books, they might see, hey, I know this book. Syzmanski read it to me. I know what it's about. Sometimes, you know, they have to figure out what happened at the beginning of the story, what happened at the middle. You know, how would they change the story? You kind of involve them with puppets and ideas with the stories. So along with that, I try to bring it at the end of the story activities that are associated with the story. Because right now, they might be missing some academics not being in the classroom. But being a former school teacher, I know some of these concepts and some of these techniques and ideas that they need to be aware of as they, you know, as they go through the educational system that they cannot forget in order to be in the next grade. So we do review all of that. You know, and times are changing right now. You know, as you see with George Floyd, a different situation. I think about his daughter, and I think about what kind of book would she like to read? And maybe other children that have questions. So your stories sometimes have to take, you know, a different direction also to see how can you help them solve problems, you know, to answer some of their questions. That's just so important so they can think positively and how can they change the world in a different way. So it is so fascinating. And I mean, I love doing it. Sometimes I'll dress up for the part. You know, like if I'm doing a certain story, let's say about flowers, I'll wear all flowers, you know, or if I'm doing a story about, you know, wild animals, I have animal prints on me. But I want to let them know, well, I'm reading a story, we're all in this together and we're going on a certain journey, but we're doing it together, but we're doing it with manipulatives. We're doing it with examples and we're answering questions. I mean, when I talk about the academics, like and sometimes I like to be the author of my story, okay? So I was teaching math skills one day and I brought coins out. You know, what is a dime? What is a penny? What is a nickel? What is the value? So it's a lot of learning that takes magic with a story combined. So that's what it's about.
It certainly sounds like we need an alumni magical story time. 'Cause I would certainly sign up, and I think there's probably some business lessons we can all learn from some of those stories that you're reading as well.
So if I could jump in for 2 seconds. So we Zoom with the students because we want to stay connected. I want to know what their needs are as we move forward. And so Maria joins me on the Zoom call. So we do it a couple times a week. And at the end, at the beginning, I tell them if they're really, really, really good, Maria will read them a story. And so we'll show them the book. So they have to be really good. And then she reads them a story at the end. And it's so great to see the smiles come back to their faces. You know, they have a message there, but there's I think it's the child in all of us. There's a big lean in. And it's really, again, you sort of see the transformation on the students. And yesterday, Maria did it for my office staff.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so next time there'll be a special alumni event around story time. But you have to bring your popcorn, bring a child, bring a dog, and sit there with your pillow and listen to the story.
Yes, and when I talk to and I read to the UNF students in this Zoom, I really want to let them know, that we're very proud of them, to keep reaching for the journey, not to let it go. You're going to have obstacles right now, but we want you to continue. Think about how many different things you're doing right now in your life and what you have to take care of. You're growing, you're learning, but don't ever forget your journey and who you are. Your name, your major, it says a lot about you. And, I want to build them up positively to say, keep going. You're taking great steps to get there. You're hard workers, because I think students need to be reminded today, who are they? What direction do they need to go? And how, as educators, do we help them along this journey? We have a responsibility. It does not matter what age we're dealing with here. We have a responsibility. Mm-hmm.
So one quick last question before we run out of time. What are you both reading right now?
So I'm reading The President and the Pope, which is started with Reagan and John Paul II, and it's basically leads up to the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. So it's actually pretty fascinating from both perspectives. I learned more about Reagan than I've ever learned before, in terms of his viewpoints and his background, as well as learning his relationship with Pope John Paul II. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, my next book that I'm reading for next week, I had to look at the times and I had to choose a book. And the next one that I'm putting on my list is Kindness Matters. In this time, kindness matters. And I'm going to use examples. In what situation does kindness matter? And how can we all be part of that kindness? So I think that word kindness is very, very important. So that's my next book.
She also read my slide, which we talked about kindness, I think.
Yeah,
no, we didn't. So this is why we're married. We think the same, even though we don't talk to each other. We don't necessarily have to. We dress the same sometimes. For those of you old enough, it's sort of Patty and Kathy Duke all over again.
They don't know that.
They don't. Some do.
Some do. Some do.
Yeah.
I do. I was a fan.
Yeah, there we
The
go.
rest of them are Googling it right now.
Well, thank you so much, President and Mrs. Szymanski. That concludes all of our time for questions. Thank you to our alumni for joining us this evening. I hope everyone stays safe, stays well, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all that you do, and stay safe. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.